Good morning. Let's be very quiet inside for a moment and let the agitation of the calendar fall away. I have heard the same sentence in every class, in every city, and it's all right to say it here. I tried and nothing happened. I don't rebuke that. I don't shame it. I know the feel of those words. They don't come out of rebellion. They come out of pressure. Time on the clock, bills on the desk, a body that will not cooperate, a relationship that went silent. And when the silence stretches, the mind whispers. Heaven isn't answering. And the heart concludes, delay means denial. Don't you know that feeling? Lord, if you had been here, my brother had not died. And the Master said, said I not unto thee, that if thou wouldest believe, thou shouldest see the glory of God. In other words, the glory is not a stunt performed at your signal. It is the nature of being revealing itself as you rest in it. Let us name the fear and take away its mask. The fear is not merely nothing is happening. The fear is I will be left without. The mind counts days. The senses count dollars. The nerves count symptoms. And every count ends with the same verdict, too late. But Scripture does not speak that language. Be still and know that I am God. While the earth remaineth, seed time and harvest shall not cease. In due season we shall reap if we faint not. Do you catch the cadence there? Seed time, then harvest. Not seed time, then instant oranges. Delay is not proof of failure. It may be the normal interval between conception and birth. This is our beginning point today. In spiritual living, many right ideas are conceived long before they are visible to the senses. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Substance before sight, conception before birth. The kingdom is within you, not out on the sidewalk where you can point and say, there it is. When a spiritual idea is quickened within, something has happened, whether or not your ledger or your mirror or your telephone agrees. If you judge by what the ledger, mirror, and telephone report, you are measuring only what has reached the surface. The senses can't report the action of spirit. They can only testify after the fact. Now, we are not here to build optimism. Optimism plays with words and tries to prop up courage with positive phrases. We are not on that ground. We are learning a principle that can be lived, proved, and trusted. The principle is that supply, healing, guidance, companionship, all that appears as good, has its source in the I that I am and unfolds outwardly as required. You are left with the principle, not with techniques. The law came by Moses, but grace and truth came by Jesus Christ. The difference is this. Under law, you push, you schedule, you earn. Under grace, you yield, you trust, you watch right ideas ripen into right forms in their hour. My time has not yet come, the Master said. There is a divine tempo, and we cannot bully it with anxiety. You may say to me, but I need it now. I understand. I have sat with that, and sometimes in the most honest hour, I have said aloud, I don't know. It hasn't unfolded to me yet. That is not failure. That is integrity. In that admission, you stop pretending to manage God, and you return to inner contact. Don't try. Live it. Exemplify it. Sit in your meditation until you feel yourself quietly one with the presence. No pleading, no bargaining, just an inner, be it unto me according to thy word. Often, without fanfare, conception takes place in that stillness. You may not at first be able to describe it. Don't try. Let it take root. For this hour, allow me to set your expectation. We will not chase forms. We will not time God, and we will not measure by appearances. We will learn to recognize the difference between nothing happening and something invisible taking hold. We will stand with the promise, though it tarry, wait for it. It will surely come. It will not tarry. And we will let that promise rebuke the clock, not your faith. If you came tired of trying, you are welcome. Lay down the stopwatch. Rest the mind that calculates. The seed has its own wisdom. The womb of consciousness knows when to bring forth. And in the quiet, we will learn together that what looks like delay is often love, arranging its own way, its own order, its own hour until the form appears and you can smile and say, of course, it was alive all along. Let us be very plain now about this word unfoldment. We are not talking about forcing outcomes or arranging circumstances. Unfoldment is progressive revelation. It is that which already is true in spirit coming into your experience in its hour. To everything there is a season, a time to be born, says Scripture. In other words, the reality of God is not created by your prayer today. It is revealed. The kingdom is already within you. Prayer doesn't manufacture it. Prayer loosens your grasp on appearances so that what is true can appear as your good. This is why I do not hesitate when pressed for blueprints and timelines to say, I don't know. It hasn't unfolded to me yet. That is not ignorance. That is spiritual honesty. The Master gave us the picture. So is the kingdom of God, as if a man should cast seed into the ground and should sleep and rise night and day, and the seed should spring and grow up. He knoweth not how, first the blade, then the ear, after that the full corn in the ear. He knoweth not how. Don't you love that? There is your license to stop pretending to be the architect of the universe. Your part is to sow by inner consent, be it unto me according to thy word, and to rest while the life that is God carries the idea from blade to ear to full corn. What students often miss is very simple. Because the senses cannot point to a result, they conclude there is no activity. And if there is no activity, the mind says, hurry up, prove it. Show me something by Friday. As if God reports to your calendar, he that believeth shall not make haste. Haste is the language of fear. Unfoldment has its own speech, its own tempo. It may whisper today, it may not raise its voice for months. But the whisper is not nothing, it is conception. When the Spirit conceives an idea in you, a forgiving, a creative design, a new direction that is already supply at work. Money isn't supply, I is supply, I embody supply. And supply, as principle, begins as right idea before it ever shows as right form. Let me tell you how this looked with one quiet fellow who sat in the back row in Chicago. He came under awful pressure, as men do figures on a ledger, lines past due. In meditation, a single gentle idea arrived. Write to the one man you have avoided and make an amends. That was all. No promise of dollars, no strategy. He obeyed. For 18 months, nothing if you take your measurements from the mailbox. But in those months, the blade was up, peace came first, guilt began to dissolve, night sleep returned. Then one day, without fanfare, there was a call. It was not even from that man. Something had moved in the invisible chain of relationships, and the opportunity that brought his relief came through a stranger. Now hear the principle. The right idea was the conception. The form of relief was the birth. The interval belonged to God. Do not demand visible signs on your signal. Do not dig up the seed to check on its progress. Every gardener knows what the anxious man forgets. To keep disturbing the soil is to starve the roots. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. So when your friend asks, how will it come? You are within your rights to answer, I don't know. It hasn't unfolded to me yet. and then you return to the only place where life begins, inner contact. Sit until you feel yourself at one. Live the principle today, act justly, forgive quickly, do the next honest thing, and let love mind its own timing. A spiritual idea can be present and active long before you can point to any evidence of it. The blade will show, the ear will fill, the full corn will ripen. Don't cry, live it, exemplify it. And in due season, what you conceived in God will come walking up your path, clothed in a form that fits, because grace never delivers a premature birth. Now I want to put my hand gently on the very wire that keeps sparking you with discouragement. It is that old equation. If I can't see it, it isn't happening. That, friends, is sensory reasoning, not spiritual discernment. We walk by faith, not by sight. In other words, spiritual life isn't measured by what the eye confirms or the ear records. Sight and sound only report after the fact. They are historians, not prophets. The activity of God is not in your field of vision first. It is in your field of being. By the time the senses salute, the event is already accomplished in spirit. Judge not according to the appearance, but judge righteous judgment. The Master didn't give that as a religious ornament. He gave it as a method. Appearance is always late. It is the last place reality becomes evident. Think for a moment every headline you read is a report of something finished. The printing press cannot create the event. It can only tell you what has already taken place. Your bank balance, your inbox, your calendar, they play the same role. And we keep treating those instruments as if they were oracles. If the statement looks better, God is working. If the symptoms ease by Thursday, prayer is effective. Do you see what we are doing? We are asking the historian to predict the future. We are making the clock the judge of the kingdom. The senses have their place. They are good servants. But they are blind watchmen for spiritual activity. The things which are seen are temporal, but the things which are not seen are eternal. Eternal doesn't mean postponed. It means of God, without beginning or end, not conditioned by calendars. When an idea is born in you quiet, gentle, often with no fireworks, that is the event. The form is the report that comes later. When you keep peeking into your mailbox as if the mailman were the Christ, you are putting a false test on grace. Haste is the language of fear. He that believeth shall not make haste. If you insist, by Friday or I quit, you are not proving God. You are proving your dependence on appearances. Now, do not take this as a scolding. Take it as a correction of instruments. In spiritual practice, we learn which gauges to trust. There is an inner witness, peace, rightness, a sense of release that precedes outer change. That witness is not sentimental. It is the first evidence that the principle is active. Money isn't supply. I is supply. I embody supply. Supply is a spiritual fact before any form appears to testify. When the form is absent today, do not announce absence of supply. Announce absence of visibility. If you wish, that is, honest, I don't know. It hasn't unfolded to me yet. See the difference? One statement denies the principle. The other refuses to judge by sight. Our impatience turns instruments into idols. We refresh the account, we check the mirror, we count the days, and we call that diligence. It is not diligence, it is doubt with a stopwatch. The principle never fails. What fails is our interpretation of timing and our worship of appearances. Timing in spirit is not delay, it is order. My times are in thy hand. When there is no letter, no offer, no easing of the pressure, stand still. Do not set a fleece. Do not say, if 3 doors open by noon, I will believe. That is to crawl back under cosmic law. If, then, cause, effect measured by the senses, and you have been invited into grace, where the movement is from the invisible to the visible, from the I to the form, and not the other way around? How then shall you live when nothing reports yet? Be faithful to the inner contact. Sit quietly and let the argument for sight dissolve. Let this be your practice. Father, thou art the substance of all form. I will not judge before the hour. I will not make haste. Then go about your day embodying the idea that has been conceived, make the amends, create the design, study the craft, tend the relationship without putting those acts on probation by the calendar. Appearances will catch up. They must. They are the shadow of the real. And when they do, you will smile. Not because the bank account finally proved God, but because you will recognize what was true before the ledger lifted its head. The I that I am never lacked, never paused, never slept. It simply brought forth in due season. Let me state the sentence that breaks the hypnosis and let it do its work in you. Money isn't supply. Opportunity isn't supply. A client isn't supply. Those are forms, effects, shapes taken by supply when the hour is right. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Added, not manufactured by you, not chased down Main Street, not bribed into your mailbox, added because supply is a presence, not a pile. If you keep looking at the pile to comfort you, you will panic when the pile is low. If you come back to presence, you will find yourself steadied even when the ledger sulks. Now, when I say I is supply, do not run away with your human ego and crown it king. I is not personal selfhood. I is that indwelling presence, the Christ within, that said, I am the bread of life. I am the door. It is the I that is God expressing as your being. I is supply. I embody supply, not as coins stuffed inside you, not as customers hidden behind your ribs, but as the living substance out of which forms come forth in their season. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. That is not poetry. That is principle. The shepherded life does not beg the meadow to be green. It rests in the shepherd and finds the grass underfoot. In other words, money, work, contacts, and openings are reports, not causes. They are the newspaper on your step, not the event itself. When you call the coin supply, you bind yourself to the coin's mood. When you call the contract supply, you crawl under the contract's timeline. And when either shows a frown, you announce, I am without. Judge righteous judgment. The things which are seen are temporal. Temporal things cannot define an eternal fact. The eternal fact is this: supply, like life, like love, is God appearing as your sufficiency. It is first realized within as right idea, peace, direction, capacity. Then it appears without as agreement, checks, invitations. First the blade, then the ear. Tie this to what you have been calling delay. If you seek effects first, you must live in alarm, because effects by their nature arrive last. They are slow, they are seasonal. The mail comes after the letter is written. The fruit comes after the root is fed. So if you make the mailbox your altar, you will stand there worshiping a closed lid and calling it fate. But if you rest in source, my times are in thy hand. You permit forms to take their own honest route to your door. You do not force, you embody. And as you embody, forms follow. A woman sat with me years ago, fingers white around a folder of unpaid notices. Her prayer had been, send me clients. That is a natural prayer, but it puts the tail where the head should be. In the stillness, a different sentence rose up in her. I is supply. Father, show me the idea that is mine to embody. She was led no trumpet, no light show to refine her craft, to forgive a partner, and to write one letter of thanks to a former patron with no request attached. 3 months, no visible change. 6 months, 2 referrals from places she had never marketed. 9 months, steady work without the old dread. What happened? Supply had been present as idea and peace and integrity. The forms walked in when they had a body to clothe. Do not misunderstand me. Act, work, answer the phone, meet your appointments. But do not turn any of those into gods. Don't try. Live it. Exemplify it. Sit in your meditation until you feel the inner hush that says, I am. Then go do the next faithful thing without putting it on probation by Friday when someone asks, where will the money come from? You are allowed to answer, I don't know. It hasn't unfolded to me yet, and feel no shame. That sentence keeps you at the spring instead of chasing buckets. Hear Isaiah, cease ye from man, whose breath is in his nostrils. Cease from depending on bosses, clients, markets, as if they were your shepherd. You are not at their mercy. You are the child of God, joint heir with Christ. All that the Father is pouring as the I that I am. Let that be your atmosphere. Let it be your wealth. And then watch quietly as money, opportunity, clients, those good servants, line up like well-trained instruments to play the music already composed within. Supply is not a form you chase. It is a presence you embody. Embody it, and the forms will find their cue and come on stage in due season. Walk with me a moment into a quiet grove. It's February. The air is cool. The branches look simple enough, no globes of sweetness hanging to make a photographer happy. Tell me, do you see anyone standing there, shaking a fist at the tree and shouting, produce or you're a fraud? You don't. Sensible men don't scold orange trees in winter. They know a season when they see one. They know, too, that the work worth applauding is hidden, the root drinking in silence, the sap obeying an inner map, the tiny nubs that will be blossoms keeping their own counsel. Invisible activity is still activity. In other words, the lack of oranges in February doesn't disprove the tree. It proves your ignorance of its order. The earth bringeth forth fruit of herself, first the blade, then the ear, after that the full corn in the ear. That is not botany only, that is your life. There is a pattern. Root before fruit, sap before sweetness, blossom before bowl. And no one throws a parade for the root. No one posts a photograph of sap. But without those, there is no golden rind to slice come summer. If you were to put your ear to that quiet trunk, you would not hear trumpets. You would hear obedience. The tree does not hurry. It doesn't consult a calendar. It abides in the law of its life. Now bring this home. You sit in prayer and it feels dry. You rise from meditation with no fireworks. A small idea presents itself hardly worth a headline. A simple contact nudges you. Write a note, make amends, tidy the corner of your craft, and the mind shrugs. That's nothing. Friends, those are blossoms. There is a fragrance on them you cannot yet taste as juice, but heaven smells it. Judge not according to the appearance, but judge righteous judgment. The appearance is quiet. The righteous judgment says conception has taken place. Money isn't supply. I is supply. I embody supply. And supply is faithful to beginner's idea as peace as rightness in the heart, long before you can stack it on a shelf. Here is where modern habit hurts us. We keep digging up the seed to see if it's working. We refresh the account. We check the inbox. We stare at the mirror, and we call that wisdom. It is not wisdom. It is interference. Every time you unearth the root to interrogate it, you starve it of the dark and the stillness it needs. He that believeth shall not make haste. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. You see, confidence does not mean passivity. It means you stop tormenting the process. You water, you tend, you shelter. You do not claw at the soil with anxious fingers and then blame God for poor yield. So how shall we live? Like a good grower, we tend the unseen first, sit until the inner hush returns. Let the sentence rise true in you. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. If someone asks, where is the fruit? You are allowed to answer, I don't know, it hasn't unfolded to me yet, and then go back to your faithful tending meditation as watering, forgiveness as pruning. Honest work as staking the young branch, gratitude as sun. Don't try, live it, exemplify it. Stop placing a stopwatch on spirit, and let us not be weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not. Your part is the orchard of consciousness. God's part is the season. My times are in thy hand. Leave them there. When the sap has finished its quiet sermon, when the blossom has said its amen, sweetness will appear without apology. You will not have forced it. You will have lived with it. And you will taste then what was true all winter. The life was in the tree, and the tree was never late. Now, if you have really heard that the tree is alive in winter, the next question is natural. What does a faithful grower do while he cannot yet taste the orange? He does not sit on a stump holding his breath. He does not lecture the buds. He does not run up and down the rows measuring by the minute. He tends, he waters, he guards the fence, he keeps order in the tools. That is patience without passivity. In spiritual terms, unfoldment is not a nervous standstill. It is living in alignment with what has been revealed while refusing to bully the hour. Abide in me, and I in you, for without me ye can do nothing. Abide is an active word. It means you remain where life is in conscious union, and you let that union shape your steps. So don't try. Live it. Exemplify it. Do not act in order to get supply. Act from the realization that I is supply. In other words, move from sufficiency, not toward it. If the idea that has been conceived in you is peace, then let peace govern your hand on the small tasks. If the idea is forgiveness, let reconciliation begin with one honest sentence and no invoice attached. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Added after the inner seeking, not as the wage for it. What does that look like on Tuesday morning? Integrity in your work. Finish the line you agreed to finish, not because a client holds a whip over your head, but because the nature of God is faithfulness and you are embodying that nature. Generosity in small ways. If a coin can be spared, let it go without fanfare. If a kindness can be spoken, speak it. If a stranger's need crosses your path, share a little of your time. Not as bait to lure a larger fish, but as overflow, because you are not living out of a bucket, you are living from a spring. Order in your home and finances. Put the desk in order. Reconcile what you can reconcile. Pay the small, honest bill you can pay today. Let all things be done decently and in order. This is not superstition. It is consent to the law of harmony. Kindness in relationship. Answer without the sharp edge. Make the apology you owe. Bless the one who has been difficult. These are signals of inner sufficiency. They say to the universe, without a speech, I am not starving. And starving men scrape and claw. Sons and daughters of God walk steadily and share. Now, take care. The mind will try to turn these acts into buttons to press. If I give here, will God hurry? If I clean that drawer, will the check arrive? That is bargaining with the calendar. It is cosmic law if, then sneaking back in a religious coat. Release it. Your steps are not leverage. They are witness. They are fruit of an inner tree that has roots in grace. My yoke is easy and my burden is light. If your so-called practice feels like a yoke of iron, check your motive. You may be trying to force birth before conception has finished its quiet work. How then do you hold the paradox active in the world, rested in spirit? You begin and end in contact. Sit even for 5 quiet minutes until you feel the inner yes-no pleading, no promises, just, Father, glorify thyself as this day. Rise from that and do the next faithful thing without attaching a stopwatch to it. When a thought says, by Thursday or else, answer gently, I don't know, it hasn't unfolded to me yet, and return to your task. Take therefore no thought for the morrow does not mean be careless. It means do not feed tomorrow with today's anxiety. Feed today with today's obedience. There is a phrase I would have you carry. You are left with the principle. The principle has to take root in you. As it does, it will show you the shape of this hour study. Here, right there, mend this fence, prune that branch, and you will find that your activity is no longer an attempt to provoke God, but a way of agreeing with God. Give, and it shall be given unto you, not as a trade, but as the natural reciprocity of a life already full. When the impulse to give rises, give. When the nudge to rest rises, rest. When the order to correct a small disorder rises, correct it. This is patience without passivity, gestation that is active in consciousness, expressed as simple fidelity. And when someone asks you, are you just waiting around? Smile and let the truth answer, no, I am tending the unseen. I am living as if the tree is alive because it is. My steps are the blossom's fragrance, not the factory's noise. My times are in thy hand. There and only there I leave the hour of form. Now, let us name the mischief plainly. Whenever you say, by Friday or I'm finished, you have slipped your neck back under an old yoke. That is cosmic law. In this context, it is not the universe of stars and tides. It is the mental system of earning, deserving, keeping score, manipulating outcomes, and measuring your worth by visible results on a date you have circled. If I am good enough, if I pray long enough, if I give this much, then by Tuesday I must receive. If, then, cause, effect as the senses count it. And it feels very religious because you lace it with verses, but it is still bargaining. The law came by Moses, but grace and truth came by Jesus Christ. Do you feel the threshold in that sentence? Law is wages, penalties, timetables. Grace is gift, annulment, and timing that belongs to God. Timeline pressure is not neutral. It is a sentence you pronounce on yourself. If it hasn't happened by Friday, I'm doomed. Do you hear the gavel? You just became judge and bailiff of your own life, and you put the Christ in the witness chair to be cross-examined by a calendar. That pressure manufactures fear. Fear manufactures haste. Haste manufactures poor seed and thin soil. He that believeth shall not make haste, not because faith is lazy, but because faith refuses to let a clock tell it whether God is present. Under law, a missed deadline is guilt and penalty. Under grace, even a closed door can be guidance. Even a delay can be protection. My times are in thy hand, not in the hand of the market, not in the hand of the inbox, not in the hand of your anxious promise to yourself. Let me say it straight. You are only under cosmic law until you achieve the realization of grace. The moment you stop bargaining and drop the whip by Thursday or else, you step beneath a different government. Grace is not a refined technique for getting what you want sooner. Grace is God being God as your life without your counsel. It is not causation you can manage. It is presence that overrules. It cancels the penalties you wrote into your schedule. It refuses your outline, not to tease you, but to spare you the smallness of your plan. Be still and know that I am God. Be still does not mean do nothing. It means resign from the premiership of time. Let God be the government. Let God carry the when as surely as the what. In other words, the goal of spiritual practice is not to master time. Do not make meditation a stopwatch. Do not turn giving into a lever. Don't try. Live it. Exemplify it. Live in the realization, quiet, steady, that I is supply. Money isn't supply. Deadlines aren't saviors. I is supply. I embody supply. And supply and grace carries its own timing, the way a melody carries its own rhythm. You cannot rush a song without ruining it. You cannot rush a birth without injuring it. First the blade, then the ear, after that the full corn in the ear. Right timing is included in right supply. A man came to me with a chart, color-coded weeks, quotas, consequences. He had pledged himself to meet a figure by quarter's end, and he was ill with dread. We did not pray for faster clients. We prayed to come under grace. In the quiet, his outline dissolved, and one clear step appeared: repair a relationship he had soured in his hurry. He obeyed. The chart did not turn bright green the next day, but his fear snapped, peace returned. And as the weeks passed, business that belonged with him found its way without his whip. What changed? He left the courtroom of if, then, and walked into the sanctuary of gift. The supply he needed arrived with its own hour stamped upon it, not late, not early, just honest. So when you feel the old sentence rising, if it doesn't happen this week, I am lost, answer it softly. I don't know. It hasn't unfolded to me yet. Then slip the calendar off God's desk and put it back on yours where it belongs, to help you keep appointments, not to lord over the invisible. Sit until contact is felt. Rise and do the next faithful thing. Refuse to crown the clock. Cast thy burden upon the Lord, and he shall sustain thee. Sustain includes the hour. When you demand outcomes on your schedule, you return to law. When you abide in the I that I am, grace governs, and with grace the when is woven into the what, the timing into the gift, the season into the fruit. My times are in thy hand, leave them there. There is a sentence that, when spoken truthfully, unties knots you did not even know you had tied. It is simple, and it offends the part of us that wants to be the oracle of our own story. I don't know. It hasn't unfolded to me yet. Do you hear the music in that? It is not defeat. It is the relinquishment of counterfeit authority. It is laying down a crown you forged from worry and handing the government back to God. Be still and know that I am God. Be still includes this form of honesty. No prophecies to impress the room. No forecast to keep fear quiet for a moment. Now, what happens in you the instant you say it cleanly? The strain snaps. The mind stops inventing answers to feed anxiety. The tongue stops pretending to know what it does not know. The heart stops condemning itself for not producing a map. My yoke is easy and my burden is light. Why? Because you have stopped carrying the burden of being right on time by your own calendar and have returned to the posture of a disciple, ears open, hands free, today sufficient. Self-condemnation is born of false omniscience. When you release the pose, you release the penalty. Guidance, you see, is not guessing with a halo on it. Guidance unfolds. Guessing rushes. Anxiety tries to fill the holy silence with blueprints. Thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. A lamp to the feet does not floodlight the city. It gives you the next clean step. In other words, when you are truly guided, you are shown what belongs to now. When you are guessing, you are sketching 10 tomorrows and calling it faith. Take therefore no thought for the morrow, not because tomorrow will not come, but because tomorrow's light will be tomorrow's lamp. A young man asked me, should I move to that city, take that offer, sell the house? Everything in him wanted a headline. In the quiet, the only honest word was, I don't know. It hasn't unfolded to me yet. We sat with that not as a shrug, but as a door left open. In the days that followed, one thing became clear without strain. Apologized to a brother he had cut off. He obeyed. Then a second step. Finished the project already on his desk. He obeyed. 2 weeks later, without a hunt, a letter arrived that shifted the decision from two options to a third he could not have invented. Lamp to the feet. Step, then light. Step, then light. This honesty is spiritual ethics. It refuses to impersonate the prophet. It keeps you from manipulating students, family, or your own heart with promises you hope will quiet fear. Cease ye from man, whose breath is in his nostrils. Cease from depending on your personality to manufacture certainty. Depend on the I that I am to reveal itself as wisdom, as timing, as form. Don't try, live it, exemplify it. Let truth ripen in you until speech is accurate because realization preceded it. Make it relational. Give us this day our daily bread, not next year's wagon. Today's bread. You can live faithfully now without a map for Thursday because the source is present now. The shepherd is here, and the Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. If grace is governing this moment has instruction enough. Do that. And tomorrow will meet you as grace when it becomes today. My grace is sufficient for thee. Sufficient for what? For the hour you are in. That sufficiency is your atmosphere. Walk in it. Hear me. Saying not yet unfolded does not reduce supply. It removes pressure from the channel. Money isn't supply. I is supply. I embody supply. If the form isn't visible, do not lie to the senses. Do not lie to spirit either. Tell the truth. It hasn't appeared to me yet. That sentence keeps the window open. Pretending fog is sunlight only keeps you in the ditch. Let this be your practice in prayer. Father, if thou art not speaking, I will not speak for thee. If thy step is not yet shown, I will not invent one. I will sit until the word is lamp enough, then rise and do the next faithful thing already in your hand without putting it under a stopwatch. Judge nothing before the time. The judge himself holds the time. So take this sentence into your day like a soft shield. When the mind bullies, decide now, promise now, perform now, answer I don't know, it hasn't unfolded to me yet, and return to contact. In that humility, revelation has room. In that room, peace appears. And in peace, the step that is yours will find you, bringing its own hour as surely as the fruit brings its own sweetness. My times are in thy hand. Leave them there. Let us be very practical now. If we are not measuring by the mailbox, how then do we recognize that something real has taken place in consciousness, that conception has occurred, even though the crib looks empty? The signs are not brass bands. They are gentle, and they do not argue. Often they arrive as a quieting that wasn't there yesterday. The anxiety slackens as if a tight shoe has been taken off your foot. The need to explain yourself to everyone evaporates. Options that felt like a maze simplify to one or two honest steps you can take without wringing your hands. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give unto you. Let not your heart be troubled. That peace does not announce funds have arrived or door B is open. It just sits in you like gravity and refuses to be bullied. Another sign is a right idea that persists without shouting. It doesn't bargain. It doesn't prod. It returns the way a bird returns to the same branch, with a mildness that is its own authority. Call this person, mend this fence, study this text, complete that task already in your hand. It is not urgent, it is inevitable. The wisdom that is from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, and easy to be entreated. Easy to be entreated means it doesn't need to win a debate to be true. It is a settled inner yes. In other words, the conception announces itself as alignment, not as evidence. The heart leans true, and the mind stops pacing. You may notice, too, a lifting of fear out of proportion to any visible change. The bills are still on the desk, but the sentence, "I am finished," no longer has your signature on it. My yoke is easy, and my burden is light. Nothing in the room has changed, and yet the weight is different. Why? Because the I that I am has taken its rightful seat as supply. I is supply. I embody supply. When that realization touches you, panic loosens its grip, not because the outer has complied, but because the inner has come under government. You feel companioned. Thou art with me. That is a sign. Now do not despise the day of small things. That is scripture. That is medicine. Conception often feels ordinary. There's no firework in the kitchen when the seed accepts the soil. You find yourself less reactive with a coworker. You discover a new simplicity in your spending. No vow of poverty, just sanity returning to the hand. You are content to do the next faithful thing without interrogating it for dividends. These are not nothings. They are the first movement of life in the womb. Elijah's servant looked and saw a little cloud out of the sea, like a man's hand. That was enough to say, there is a sound of abundance of rain. First the blade, then the ear. How do you distinguish conception from a bright, nervous thought? Pressure gives it away. False guidance heckles and hurries and quotes you penalties if you don't jump by Thursday. It thrives on the calendar. True guidance bears the mark of grace. It comes with room to breathe. It does not need to be defended. If it is for today, the lamp to your feet will show enough to move. If it is not for today, it will rest without sulking. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. Confidence here does not mean bravado. It means you can say, I don't know. It hasn't unfolded to me yet. And in that truth feel more, not less, guided. Take care, though. These signs are not trophies to clutch or proof to wave before your fears. They are directions. Live them. Don't try. Live it. Exemplify it. If peace has come, let your speech slow to its pace. If a right idea hums, obey it in its smallness without demanding it. Bring its older brother named results. If fear has lifted, do not rechain yourself by refreshing the account every 10 minutes. Judge nothing before the time. Conception is shy. It asks for trust, not inspection. The seed resents being dug up to satisfy curiosity. Trust is the soil where unfoldment completes. And remember, money isn't supply. The settled inner yes is not a down payment from a bank. It is the presence revealing itself as sufficiency. You are the child of God, joint heir with Christ. When that identity rises from a sentence in a book to a tone in your blood, you are witnessing conception, not the fruit yet, the seed. Leave it there. Let grace keep its calendar. My times are in thy hand. Walk in the signs, not by clinging to them, but by letting them become your manna. When the hour of form arrives, you will recognize it without strain because you have been living in its nature all along. Let us make the correction cleanly, because this is the point at which many a fine beginning is spoiled. The moment conception is sensed, the habit is to dig. We dig with our eyes, refreshing the account, the inbox, the doorbell. We dig with our tongues, repeating affirmations like a drum beat, not as recognition, but as pressure. We dig with our watches, comparing timelines. She had her answer in 3 days. What's wrong with me? We dig with relationships, calling 3 friends for reassurance and then a 4th because the first 3 did not quiet the ache. And all of it looks pious because it uses religious words, but the root motive is simple. Fear trying to regain the throne by monitoring appearances. Fear is a poor gardener. It demands fruit early to escape a feeling, not to honor a season. It counts evidence because it has lost contact. In other words, the senses insist on seeing what spirit is doing and not seeing yet conclude that nothing is happening. That is how you mistake absence of evidence for absence of supply. But supply is not a form to hover over. Supply is the eye that conceives right ideas and brings them to birth in due season. Money isn't supply. I is supply. I embody supply. When you forget that and clutch at the surface, you slip back under cosmic law. If then, sooner, later, win, lose, measuring life with a ruler you made yourself. The law came by Moses, but grace and truth came by Jesus Christ. Grace does not report to your stopwatch. What then is the correction? Return to the principle. You are left with the principle until it takes root in you. Stop handling effects. Handle cause. Sit until contact is real, not long, not heroic, real. Abide in me, and I in you. Abide is the gardener's word for leaving the seed in the soil and trusting the soil to do what soil is. If words arise, let them be recognition, not incantation. I is supply. Father, thou art the life of this idea. Then walk away from the whole. Do the next faithful thing already given you to do. Don't try, live it, exemplify it. Take this self-test to keep yourself honest. If your practice leaves you strained, jaw tight, breath shallow, the heart bargaining, then you are trying to force birth rather than allowing unfoldment. The master's yoke is easy, and his burden is light. If your yoke is iron, you have hitched yourself to a cart you built out of fear. He that believeth shall not make haste. Haste belongs to fear. Faith moves steadily because it is not trying to prove God present. It knows God is present. If you rise from prayer lighter, quieter, less interested in clocks and more willing to bless the task before you, you are in the soil of trust. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. Replace interference with stewardship. Set ordinary, sane intervals for checking what must be checked, as a bookkeeper keeps books, not as a priest consults an oracle. Refuse to peck at appearances all day. When the hand goes to refresh the screen again, let it become an altar. Stop, breathe, turn within. Be still and know that I am God, and then turn to the simple obedience at hand. Finish the letter, wash the dish, make the amends, study the page. Thy word is a lamp unto my feet. A lamp to the feet is enough light to walk without guessing the whole road. Let thanksgiving be your language in between, quiet gratitude for the life already at work, the peace already given, the ideas already come. Gratitude is soft rain. Anxiety is a shovel. If someone demands of you, prove it. Where is the result? Do not answer with noise. Answer with honesty. I don't know. It hasn't unfolded to me yet. Then return to contact. Trust is the soil where unfoldment completes. Digging is interference. It starves the root of the dark and stillness it loves. Judge nothing before the time. My times are in thy hand. Leave them there, and you will find that what you cease to bully ripens of itself, first the blade, then the ear. After that, the full corn in the ear, arriving not at your command, but as grace revealing itself in form. So then, When the room is still the same and the envelope has not arrived, what does faithfulness look like? Not prediction, not posture, not standing on the porch rehearsing speeches for a package that isn't at the curb. Faithfulness is abiding in the source and obeying the light you actually have, not the spotlight you wish you had. Abide in me and I in you. Abide, not audition. We walk by faith, not by sight. In other words, we walk by inner contact, not by outer confirmation. Faithfulness is present obedience and inner contact, not visible proof. Make it very ordinary. Morning contact, not the heroism of an hour on your knees bargaining with a clock, but 5, 10, 15 quiet minutes of relinquishment. Father, glorify thyself as this day. Give us this day our daily bread, not next year's storehouse. If words come, let them be recognition, not incantation. I is supply. Money isn't supply. The I that I am embodies sufficiency. Sit until the mind stops proposing outlines and a soft awareness rises that the day already has a shepherd. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. Then rise and accept a lamp to your feet, not a floodlight to the horizon. Thy word is a lamp unto my feet. Midday, remembrance. And you will notice the hand reaching for the screen or the door or the wallet as if salvation hangs there. Let that reach become prayer. One breath. Be still and know that I am God. One step back into the I. My grace is sufficient for thee. Grace is sufficient for the hour you are in. Answer the email in front of you with honesty. Make the one phone call that belongs to now. Complete the page in your hand. Do the next faithful thing without lacing it to a stopwatch. If the mind demands a prophecy, when? Answer gently, I don't know. It hasn't unfolded to me yet, and return to your task. Lamp to the feet, foot to the path, evening. Gratitude without audit. Not the bookkeeper of outcomes, but the witness of presence. Review the day for evidences of inner government. Where did peace steady you? Where did a right idea find obedience? Where did you refuse the whip of hurry? Thank God there. Where you missed it, do not flog yourself back under cosmic law. Confess, correct, and close the book. Cast thy burden upon the Lord, and he shall sustain thee. Leave the questions with God and go to sleep under grace. He giveth his beloved sleep. Sleep itself is faith, the body's way of saying, my times are in thy hand. Be gentle with yourself. Discouragement is seldom evidence that God has failed. It is a symptom of believing life is external to you. You looked out there and not seeing fruit, you call yourself barren. No, life is within you as I. Supply is not a truck at the curb. It is the indwelling presence, conceiving right ideas and bringing them to birth in due season. Money isn't supply. I is supply. I embody supply. When you forget and condemn yourself for a quiet day, you have crowned appearances and step back under law. If, then, sooner, later, worthy, unworthy, step out again. Neither do I condemn thee. Go and sin no more. In other words, drop the sentence, accept the correction, and walk on. Don't try, live it, exemplify it. Now hear the quiet freedom that grows in this way of life. As consciousness shifts, delay loses its power to stop you because your life is no longer suspended on forms. You are not waiting to begin. You are already in your life, and forms are added things. First the blade, then the ear, after that the full corn in the ear. You tend the blade with the same steadiness you will later pick the ear. The calendar's moods no longer govern your heart. None of these things move me, said the apostle, and that is not bravado. It is what happens when the inside is governed by grace. You become less stoppable not because doors fling open at your snap, but because a closed door is no longer a verdict, it is guidance. Your steps are not suspended, they are sustained. My times are in thy hand. Leave them there. And you will find that living faithfully when the form hasn't appeared yet is not a pause. It is the path quiet, obedient, and protected by grace until the hour of form arrives of itself. So let me say this to you as plainly as I know how, because you will need it on an ordinary Tuesday when the phone is quiet. Once you have seen this principle, you will not go back to the old pressure as if it had authority. Challenges may circle. Storms may knock at the windows. A bill may arrive at the worst moment. And the mind will try to resurrect the old calendar as your Lord. But something in you has shifted seats. You have tasted another government. The law came by Moses, but grace and truth came by Jesus Christ. You are only under cosmic law until you achieve the realization of grace. And once grace has touched you, the old courtroom no longer feels like home. You may step into it for an anxious minute, but you won't live there. None of these things move me, not because you are stubborn, but because inner government has replaced outer evidence as your master. Keep the sequence near you like a map folded in your pocket. Contact, conception, rooting, unfoldment, birth. Do you hear the rhythm inside that? Timing is not an add-on. Timing is in the principle. Contact is first. Be still and know that I am God, not a technique, a relationship. In contact, conception occurs. A right idea, a peace, a simple instruction. Then rooting. You let the idea take hold without digging at it. Letting in quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. Become soil. Unfoldment follows not as fireworks, but as lamp to the feet, sequences, step then light, step then light, and birth comes of itself. First the blade, then the ear, after that the full corn in the ear. All within grace, all carrying their own hour. Now notice what that does to waiting. Waiting stops being purgatory and becomes pregnancy. Waiting becomes gestation, calm, purposeful, protected. You are not idle, you are held. The shepherd is not absent because the pasture looks thin. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. Want is not your governor. Presence is. The orange tree is not barren because you didn't clap today. Invisible activity is still activity. The sap is faithful even when the branch is quiet. He that believeth shall not make haste, not because faith is slow, but because faith receives the hour with the gift. Let me give you, as a send-off, the cadence you can walk by. Don't try. Live it. Exemplify it. Let it unfold. Do not bargain with time. Bless the hour you are in. Practice contact as your first act. Honor the quiet conception when it comes. Protect the root by refusing to crown appearances. Let unfoldment lead you one honest step at a time. Recognize birth when it arrives by its lack of strain. And if in any moment you are pressed for a prophecy, answer truthfully, I don't know, it hasn't unfolded to me yet, and return to contact. That sentence is not a stall. It is reverence. Above all, keep supply where it belongs. Money isn't supply. I is supply. I embody supply. Supply is present now as the indwelling I, revealing itself in due season as forms, as opportunities, as reconciliations, as invoices cleared, as doors suited to your feet. Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. The kingdom comes as grace, and grace includes its timing. My times are in thy hand. Leave them there. So go gently, but go. Wake into contact. Walk in peace. Tend the blade without interrogating it. Set down the whip. Refuse the courtroom. Dwell under grace. Don't try. Live it. Exemplify it. Let it unfold. And as you do, you will find you cannot be driven back into the old pressure. because you have become acquainted with reality. The I that I am is your sufficiency. Forms are added, things arriving in their season like fruit heavy with their own sweetness. You need not fear the interval. The interval is holy. The interval is gestation. And grace, which began the good work in you, will carry it through to birth.